director came from Texas A&M. That's why the Aggies wanted Bjork in the first place. Then Florida's athletic director came from Mississippi State. Hail State, everyone wants to leave. Just like, it's tough for those Mississippi schools, right? I mean, you got to really love Magnolias to want to stick around there, I suppose. But anyway, as we mentioned, the A&M AD, Bjork, is now, used to be the AD at Ole Miss. And then, how about this? Mississippi State decided, look, we'll just keep who we have rated. We don't want a guy leaving. So they hired their baseball coach. So did South Carolina. That's Ray Tanner. And of course, UT, they hired Phil Fulmer. Now, I've been a bit skeptical because it's just, hiring the old coach is just not the way that modern college athletics are going. And I also look and I see, well, I think the Lady Vols are underfunded, and we see what that means, and sort of the demise of the program. I think that, football, who do they get? Well, we can't beat Alabama, let's join them and hire their defensive coordinator. I thought when the whole football coach search came about, they might look at the offensive coordinator at Alabama due to the fact that that's how the rules of the game kind of, favor a little bit, and the innovator. But Fulmer being the old coach, a lineman himself, but an offensive lineman. But you got to win the battles of the trenches. So he goes and hires a defensive coordinator. He did pay to keep Rick Barnes. Got to give him credit for that. He's hired a good baseball coach in Tony Vitello. Looks like a good golf coach. Actually, he didn't hire the baseball coach, did he? That was hired by John Curry. Same with the tennis coach, I believe. The golf coach was hired by Fulmer. We had him on the show, as a matter of fact. But, it's just a circumstance right now. I think a lot of people are surprised. Really, A&M went to Ole Miss, probation-riddled Ole Miss for their athletic director. Stay tuned. Well, I will just say this. Believe it or not, I hear a lot, Colin Cowherd talking about how A&M is second-rate in the state of Texas, and I kind of understand that. Usually the school that isn't state is the more popular one. Okay, Ohio's an exception, but let's think about, and for that matter, so is Pennsylvania. But who's more popular? North Carolina or North Carolina State? It's not fair to say Kentucky and Kentucky State or, Tennessee or Tennessee State. It really just isn't fair, but obviously. Florida or Florida State? Really, Florida is. Again, there are exceptions. As I said, Penn State is going to be more popular than the Ivy League's University of Pennsylvania. But Indiana or Indiana State? Michigan or Michigan State? Usually that team that is known as state finishes second. And is that not the case also when it's A&M or Tech? Georgia or Georgia Tech? Think about it for a second. I guess A&M is not necessarily that ubiquitous. Oklahoma State used to be Oklahoma A&M, but that's a little bit. Anyhow, but the thing is, I actually think that A&M might be the football school forever going forward. I realize they haven't won a national title since '39, and Texas has won it a bunch since then, most recently in 2005. But consider these factors. First of all, even though Texas has the most money coming in because of the Longhorn Network, it's A&M that pays. It's A&M that revolutionized paying college coaches when they brought in Jackie Sherrill. You can't have the football coach be the highest paid employee at the university. He can't make more than the college president. Well, actually, he can. A&M proved that. And now it's done pretty much everywhere. All right, so be it. But think about this. Austin, think about the cultural leanings of football. University of Texas is one of the bigger left-wing campuses anywhere. And maybe that's a sign of creativity. Hey, Austin, Texas has a great music scene. AC/DC played their first American concert there. It has to, right? However, A&M, farmers fight! Hullabaloo, ganak, ganak. It's listed as one of the more conservative campuses anywhere. Sort of explains why Texas and Texas A&M were great rivals, if only they played. But the circumstance comes out, maybe in football, yeah. That sort of culture, hey, Texas might make the money, but it's not like they're really, well, we can't spend that much on football. A&M has no scruples. Historically, they have not. And yes, it seems like because that, hey, what does the football team need? 100,000 seats at Kyle Field, but it sways. Doesn't matter, we need the seats. Put them in. A&M will do whatever it takes to win in football. Texas seems to just be a heck of a lot more up and down, even with their success in the previous decade. Now, speaking of footballs, we got a pro football. Gerald McCoy, used to be the DT for defensive tackle. He wasn't suffering from DTs, at least I hope not. But no, defensive tackle Gerald McCoy, formerly the Tampa Bay Bucs, now getting a lot of interest from the new hot spot in the National Football League. They're getting the draft. They have Baker Mayfield. They have a 7-victory season. Cleveland Browns, who are 14-1 to go to the Super Bowl, or win the Super Bowl, a 14-1 shot, and they're getting money on it. This is a team a season removed from going 1-31 over 2 years. However, Jimmy Haslam, yes, the big Tennessee booster, Mr. Pilot Truck Stop himself, he's their owner. And so McCoy is visiting the Browns. They got $33 million in cap space according to Spotrac, so they can make a strong offer. Now, the interesting thing here, the Colts are also involved. Colts have more cap room than any other team in the NFL. Also in the running, the Bengals, the Falcons, the Saints. Cleveland Plain dealer Mary Kay Cabot is reporting the Ravens. And, yeah, for a player like McCoy, no surprise here, New England Patriots. Patriots do seem to be pretty good at bringing in the old veteran for his last 2 or 3 years and getting the most out of it. I mean, Bill Belichick, meet George Allen. Seems to be the case there. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs, who Dan Rooney once spoke to me, and I asked about the Kansas City Chiefs, and he said, well, they have their own ideas on how the league should be run. They were really sour grapes on overtime. We didn't get the ball back. You had 2 chances to stop the Patriots. You didn't do it. It's a game of field position. And then you want the ball back with the extra down. Remember, I keep saying this, pro football overtime, when both teams are required to have the ball, is not fair. It is less fair than the system that the NFL has now. Because the first team basically has 3 downs. I mean, you're punting the ball away if you go 3 and out in the first overtime period. But the other team, if they are scored on, has 4 downs. So there's tremendous advantage for the team that bats second, so to speak. Chiefs wanted to get it so that both teams got the ball. There wasn't enough support, even though Stephen Jones, Cowboys, said there might be. But there wasn't enough support to change the rule. There is some talk of doing it in OT. Remember the modern OT rule, it used to be sudden death. First score wins. And what was happening then is that teams get the ball first and then get to about the 30-yard line, kick a long field goal, we win. And there was something very unsatisfying about that. In 1974, you didn't have quite the same amount of long field goals. I mean, the idea was, well, if you can get a 47-yarder or something, go, more power to you. 74 was the first year of football overtime. It was the first year also they moved the goalposts back. And on 73, it was still on the goal line. I think they still do that in Canada. Last time I looked, I haven't watched Canadian football in forever. But anyway, The case in point, though, that I'm going to say is that you are looking now in overtime. Originally, like I said, then Jim Nantz was big on this. This is unfair. We need to change overtime. So it came about, look, you get the ball first, you score a touchdown, you win. But if you only get a field goal or you get no points whatsoever, or if you surrender a safety, that's interestingly enough, you surrender a safety, you lose. But, I mean, you know, right there, it's walk-off. You know, if you start now, admittedly, keep this in mind here, okay? I want you to understand that, yeah, if you were, I'm trying to think here, I guess if you surrendered to safety, yes, in overtime, you would basically have to lose, wouldn't you? I'm trying to think of a scenario where you wouldn't, and all that, you know, because, but no, I mean, that's the case. Anyway, you score a touchdown on the first possession in NFL overtime, of course you win. But if you kick a field goal or if you got a punt or you have turnover, some other team gets the ball and they've got a chance to either tie or win at that circumstance. You don't score. I mean, obviously your defense has to do the job. Anyway, I mention all this because that was first started in the playoffs. First game that was played by those rules was in 2012, and Tim Tebow beat the Steelers with a touchdown pass. First play of overtime. That was it. Broncos won. Lost to the Patriots next week. But anyway, point being here, they're thinking about maybe doing that. Well, both teams should get the ball and play out. No. You know what I really hate is I hate high school and college overtime. Again, it's the team that hits last, gets the extra down. That's not fair. And also, where's the element of field position? We just give you the ball at 25. We just give you the ball at 10. You ought to be able to earn that field position. Now, I will say I do have I've seen this happen, and maybe the Chiefs would have something going for them because basically they had to play defense on 2 straight possessions. Maybe something like that should be changed. Okay, if you tie on the last play of the game or right at the end or what have you, then you get the ball first in overtime. I could see that. But doing away with field position, giving the team that goes second the extra down, that's even more unfair than we don't get the ball. Stop them! All you gotta do is not, you want the ball, don't allow a touchdown. It's not asking that much. Geez, they ran it back all the way to start overtime. They don't deserve to win. Yes, they do. It bothers me to no end. Tri-City Sports Now.
Carter Theater is a world-renowned destination.